All right, blessings, everyone. All right, I know it's been a while. I appreciate the patience, I really do. But there were so many distractions, and I was keeping along with what was going on. And so I'm going to finish what I started here, and then I'm just going to be talking about a few things that I'd like to go over concerning the work that Jonathan Nolan has done. I wanted to go over a few videos there. So I'm going to do that, and like I said, I'm going to finish here what I started. And again, I apologize for the slowdown here because, like I said, it was things that I felt that it was important that I took a look at and followed. So that's what happened. Now, again, I just want to talk about this a little bit to refresh your memory. The first time that I went through any of this was with my mother-in-law, and I believe that it was her strong will that she was able to, what I know now as to astro project. I didn't know anything as a name, but something of an experience that I had experienced. So my approach to all of this with my mother-in-law was in love and concern for her. I had nothing to compare this to, so like I said, it was just that I believed that her will was that strong that she was able to do this. But it was, a happy memory. It was a day of joy, really, so what more could I have said about this? So then it happened where Jonathan Kleck, same thing, but a little different. And this is where the similarities and the differences are. And then you need to concern, what is spiritual, what is God's, and what isn't. And I want to say that when Anne showed herself to me, she showed herself to me as though in a kitchen, like when she received. I really believe she received that day. And I still can hear her laughter. It was deep. And so it was really what she brought to me, okay, in this lucid dream, which I'm going to explain a little bit about, because this is what happened. This is what I believe happened here. Yes, I am looking into this because of what Jonathan Kleck had done. So yes, my questions was, okay, let's think about this. What was happening in the dream? So I started to break things down, and I did a little bit of research. I only scratched the surface, so I didn't go far too into it there. I only went as far as I needed to go. So I'll be talking about that. So when Jonathan Kleck showed himself, I ended up in a room just looking just as dingy as this. It was dark. There was a table. There was 3 chairs. My back was to the door. It was dim, and this is what he brought to me. So then I was really surprised how I was able to move around. And it's like as though I took control of the situation. When Jonathan and whoever this being was, I couldn't, I couldn't see anything. It was just more like a shadow. It was a presence that was there. And so I go to reach over to Jonathan Kleck to my left where he's sitting, and I go to reach for his arm, and he pulls away his arm. Okay, so he rejects that, the concern, and so he gets up and he leaves, and I get up and I watch them both. I'm going to say both because he's talking to somebody. And I get up and I watch them leave, going down a hallway where it was very similar to my mother-in-law, because my mother had a hallway from the door to the kitchen, and it was just a short little hallway. And this is what I saw when I watched Jonathan Kleck and this whenever when I watched them leave, they went down a little hallway and then they made a sharp left and they were gone. And the last thing I heard was, she knows. So this is what I am looking at when I'm looking at this, because I never had anything to compare it with until now. So this is what, Jonathan brought to me. It was just as it was with Anne when she showed me that she came within the kitchen, the bright kitchen, all of that. So, and it did come in as a warning, like she was letting me know. So the same, I would have to look at this with Jonathan Kleck as being, yes, it was a warning, but it wasn't a warning just for me. But this is something that I think people should be aware of. So I'm just going to show you I'm going to read out a few things here that I had found here, okay? Because I had to look into this. Now, one more thing before I read this out is, there was another thing that I noticed when I was doing the similarities and differences between the two experiences there. When Anne, my mother-in-law, when she showed herself to me, I didn't feel no presence with her. It was just Anne at the kitchen table looking right at me, full face. Whereas with Jonathan Kleck, I felt the presence, I seen the presence, he was talking to this presence. So there was a difference there, okay? So again, I go and I start looking to find out a little bit more about this astral projection. And I believe I may have read this before, but I'm going to read it again. And it's the Indian spiritual teacher, Mir Baba, describes one's use of astral projection. In the advancing stages leading to the beginning of the path, the aspirant inspiring becomes spiritually prepared for being entrusted with free use of the force of the inner world of the astral bodies. He may then undertake astral journeys in the astral body, leaving the physical body in sleep or wakefulness. The astral journeys that are taken unconsciously are much less important than those undertaken with full consciousness and as a result of deliberate volition, which using your free will, the power of will. So deliberately, using your free will. This implies conscious use of the astral body. Conscious separation of the astral body from the outer vehicle of the gross body, which is the physical body, has its own value in making the soul feel its distinction from the gross body and arriving at fuller control of the gross body. One can at will put on and take off the external gross body as if it were a cloak and use the astral body for experiencing the inner world of the astral and for the undertaking journeys through it, if and when necessary. I found this really interesting because, again, is this what happened where, Jonathan Kleck is talking to a presence, but I'm not seeing like I'm seeing Jonathan Kleck, and I know that, and I feel that presence there. So I thought that was really interesting. So in Japan is basically the mythology here is that if there was a grudge, someone holds a sufficient grudge against another person, it's believed that part of the whole of their soul can temporarily leave their body and appear before the target of their hate in order to curse or otherwise harm them. So this is what they would call the third eye. According to the classical, medieval, Renaissance, the Hermetism, Napoleonism, again, this is the Golden Dawn, through the astral body is an intimate body of light linking the rational soul to the physical body, while the astral plane is an intermediate world of light between heaven and earth, composed of the spheres of the planets and stars. These astral spheres were held to be populated by angels, demons, and spirits. Okay, the expression astral projection came to be used in two different ways for the Order of the Golden Dawn and some theos, I can't pronounce it, sorry. It retained the classical and medieval philosophers' meaning of the journeying to other worlds, heavens, hells, the astrological spheres, and other landscapes in the body of light. But outside these circles, the term was increasingly applied to non-physical travel around the physical world. I think I read that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going here. All right, so this was the astral projection. So then I went to lucid dreams, and here's where I found where in a lucid dream, which I believe that I was in that night when Anne came to me and when Jonathan Kleck had come to me. So I believe that this is very close to the truth of what I experienced and believe what happened. Okay, wait, I've got to back up a little bit. I forgot to mention and show these pictures, so I'm just going to show these now. These were pictures I sent, or some of them I sent to Jonathan Nolan. Now, Jonathan Nolan was picking up on this movie, The Ghostbusters, of course, and there was a lot to that what he brought up. And I started to think, okay, these pictures of where I had taken, and I just started taking the pictures. And I started to notice that they were all in different rooms at different times. One was white, one was black, one's gold. It was becoming very obvious to me about there was something about these spheres. And when Jonathan Nolan brought up the testimony of when there was a sphere that was hovering in my doorway, and it was right at eye level. There was no missing this. Right at eye level, and it was hovering there. There was no sound. There was nothing that came from it. It was just hovering there. Just to say it existed. It was right there. There was no just putting on my makeup. That's it. And off to the corner of my eye, I see and I look, and there it is. When I was giving this testimony, I used to believe that it was all about what it was that I saw in front of me. And then just one day, it was right there. It was not about so much as what was in front of me that I was looking at. It's how I responded to that. And when I say respond, I had no fear of what it was that I was looking at. I was just waiting. I was just waiting for Jesus to make the first move. And it disappeared. So when Jonathan Nolan saw the movie, and it was quite the opposite of what I was saying within the testimony, saying that there was no fear, and in the movie that it was all built on fear and spirits and demons and that sort of thing. Okay, I'm going to leave the astral projection at this. I'm just going to read this out. This here was something that really struck me right after it happened, when he brought me into this room sitting at that table. It was right away that I thought of this here when I was talking about the residentials, the children, the shock treatments, all of these things that were happening, and the triggers and the altars. So right away I thought of this. There was something about the rooms. I remembered, where did I see or read about, giving permission to enter a certain room? And here it is. So I'm just going to read this out, and then I'm just going to leave that up for you to decide or to ponder on. And then I'm just going to keep going, okay? Because there's a few other things that I need to talk about here that I feel that are important to put out now. Okay, so altars and triggers. Now, this is where I'm getting I got this from the on declassified files, the Montauk. Okay, so here it is. Another way of examining these victimizations of body and soul is by looking at its complex computer program. A file altar is created through trauma, repetition, and reinforcement. In order to activate a trigger, the file, a specific access code or password, cue, or command is required. One of the main initial structures, of which there are many, within the system is shaped like a double helix, consisting of 7 levels. Each system has an internal programmer which oversees gatekeeper, demons, who grant or deny entry into the different rooms. And here he brought the room. And I'll just go on with it. A few of the eternal images predominantly seen by victim survivors are trees, the Kabbalistic tree of life, with a joining root system, infinite loops, ancient symbols and letters, spider webs, mirrors, these are triggers. Mirrors or glass, shattering, masks, castles, mazes, demons, monsters, and aliens. This is important that I think is important. Demon, monsters, and aliens. Seashells, butterflies, snakes, ribbons, bows, flowers. These are the things that, will trigger. There are an inordinate amount of altars in the victim survivor with numerous backup programs, mirrors, and shadows. A division of light side good and dark side bad. Altars are interwoven in the mind and rotate as an axis. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Okay, so this is, like I say, this is what I believe happened to me that night. Okay, with what happened with Jonathan Kleck. So I'm just going to read bits and pieces here. I don't want to read the whole thing. It's sleep.com. Okay, what is lucid dreaming? In the simplest terms, a lucid dream is one in which you know you're dreaming while it's happening, rather than not knowing that you've been dreaming until you wake up. Lucid dreams are marked by the clarity and the lucidity during the dream. It's important to note that the ability to control your dream is something of a secondary element that comes after lucidity. The awareness that you're dreaming is distinct but necessary predecessor to control your dreams, which then exist on a spectrum. Some lucid dreamers can only make small shifts and tweaks to their dreams, while others can make walls disappear and transport to new locations. There is a huge continuum from no influence to total influence, explaining Leah Barrett, PhD, Harvard Lecturer, Committee of Sleep. When you can control your dreams through the experience is something like virtual reality for your sleeping mind. Absolutely. According to recent research, lucid dreaming isn't as rare as most people might think. About 50% of the people claim to have had one or more lucid dreams in their lifetime, and about 23% say that they have one or more lucid dreams each month. While most lucid dreams last for about 14 minutes, their content varies as much as the people who experience them. Where am I going here? Okay, so the history of this goes back to 330 BC, okay, by the Buddhists practicing dream yoga for millennia, okay. It wasn't until 1913 that Frederick Van Eden, spelled with two E's, coined the term lucid dream. It's interesting that this is where I am today, and because of what happened. And this is Eden, Frederick Van Eden, who coined the term lucid dream. Okay. In the article titled A Study of Dreams, in 1968, Green began scientifically studying lucid dreams, declaring it a unique sleep state associated with rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. But it was Dr. Stevens who really brought lucid dreams research into the mainstream in the 70s and 80s. This was thanks to the large part to the help of the electric shock, EOG technology, which detects eye movement and enabled dreamers to signal lucidity to the outside world. Since then, studies have explored everything from methods from inducing lucid dreaming to uncovering what's happening in the brain during lucid dreams, to their potential for mitigating nightmares and other therapeutic uses. Aspie, PhD, a visiting research fellow at the University of Australia, has conducted two of the largest studies to date on learning how to lucid dream. Aspie found that the combination of induction techniques designed to spark lucid dreams worked for his participants, regardless of whether they had a lucid dream before. Is that electric shock? I don't know. Just asking. I don't know. Okay, that's that's not it. Okay, so what causes lucid dreams? Lucid dreams occur thanks to the activity to the prefrontal cortex of the brain. That's the part responsible for the self-awareness and reflection. Think of it as a blurred line between your conscious waking self and your unconscious sleeping self. When you're asleep, but not lucid dreaming, the prefrontal cortex, your conscious human thought machine, is basically offline. When you're lucid dreaming, you have some prefrontal cortex ability that's a bit more ramped up. It's not at all the same level as when you're awake, but it's doing something. It's an active but not fully active state. Lucid dreaming technically happens during the REM stages of sleep. That takes place an hour or so after we fall asleep. This is when most dreaming happens, so it makes sense that the lucid dreamings would occur then too. But recently, researchers have begun trying to parse out whether lucid dreaming is unique state and not entirely like normal REM sleep. During lucid dreams, the brain is closer to waking in terms of activity, but not as active as if it were fully awake. The brain does not have The brain does show signs of more, what was that, activity, hold on a second, okay, activation than it does during typical REM sleep. So it's likely a simply different REM state, but if we have to call it REM or non-REM, it's definitely REM. The benefits of lucid dreaming. One of the leading benefits that lucid dreams can hold is their potential to combat and transform nightmares, especially for those who suffer from them chronically. Using lucid dreams in coupled techniques, dreamers can try changing a nightmare by being intentional about what they want to dream about. If you're having a nightmare about a witch, let's say, before you fall asleep, you can tell yourself that when you dream about the witch, I want her to turn around and go away, said Barrett. Or you can tell yourself that you want her to turn into a good witch, or that you want her to tell you why she's there in the dream. Aspie agrees. During nightmares, your brain is more aroused state. Because you're frightened, you're more likely to notice that you're dreaming, he explained. A lot of people who have nightmares will use lucid dreaming to control and change their dreams, so lucid dreaming can be used to treat nightmares. And then it goes on about PTSD, and insomnia, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to just stop here. Okay, so I need to bring you here. This would be Jonathan Nolan's house channel. This has been really intense for me, okay, because I didn't expect Jonathan Nolan to do what it was that he's been doing here. I was really taken back about the Haskell thing, and that was a real distraction to me because it was pretty intense. It was more intense with Nolan going through all of this than it was at the time when it was actually happening. So touching on that was like I said, intense. And then having the conversation with Jonathan Nolan, and him explaining how he got up the next morning and heard the conversation going on here with Jonathan Kleck. Now, I can't find the video. I'm a little flustered about it. It takes hours for me just to be looking for something, and so I'm getting a little tired of that. But anyway, Jonathan Nolan explains that he gets up in the morning and Jonathan Kleck is playing a video. I don't know if it's this video. I'm not sure anymore what part is what. I don't know. So anyway, listening to this part of it anyway, there was a little bit more to it, I believe, but this is a little clip that I found, and I'm going to play it out, and I'm going to verify what Jonathan Nolan has been saying about the conversation and what he, is suspecting what had taken place, and why I believe that Jonathan Kleck heard the conversation and went straight to making a video over it. I agree with Jonathan Nolan on this. Now, the part that you're going to hear here is a part of a conversation I had with Jonathan Nolan on the phone. And I was explaining to him about lucid dreams, about astral projection, but it was more about lucid dreams. And I've already went through that with you. So I'm explaining to him about a little bit about the MK and how I explained it to you, where it was talking about rooms when it was, they just had a different wording about this astral projection, that what I read to you just earlier. It's just a little bit of different wording to it. Anyway, so when I heard this whole thing through with Jonathan Kleck and the other one that he did, I'm absolutely convinced that the conversation was heard. Here, this is just a small part of it where, again, I'm talking about this house that I worked on back in my 30s. And I worked on this house for about 2 years thinking I was doing the work for God and trying to help. And didn't turn out that way. But I go to a mall, and in the middle of the mall there's there's a name for it, but a bunch of fortune tellers in the main alley or aisle, right in the middle of the store. So I go up and I go to talk to this guy, and I'm explaining to him what is happening with the house and the people that live in it. And I remember him saying to me, I'm going to do it for you. I will do this for you, but I am not doing it for the people that live in the house. I'm doing it for you. So we set a date, and he's leaving town at a certain time. So when he sets the date, I explained to him I'm having surgery the day before, and so we would work it out and see what would happen, how I felt after surgery. So I have my surgery, and the next day we go to the house, and as we're driving, I said to him, I asked him, is this going to affect me at all because of, my surgery? And he just looked at me and he said, you don't know who you are, do you? He said, they're afraid of you. You blind them. Your light blinds them. They won't hurt you. They won't come near you. They won't hurt you. So I took his word for it, and we got to the house, and I sat in the rocking chair, just sitting while they were doing their thing. And when I looked up at the corner, there was like a divider kind of thing between the living room and the dining room. And I look up at the corner, and there's this look, it looks to me like a creature. Lord of Rings, that one with the funny voice, something along, like that. And when I'm looking, it's like he's got his fingers or his claws or his fingers, and he's kind of pulling away, like pulling on it, and he's peeking and he's looking straight at me, and it only lasted for about a minute, if that. And I just, was kind of a little startled, but again, looking at me as if though that in awe, and then it was gone. So here Jonathan Kleck is talking about the light, okay? All of a sudden it's about the light, and I know that this is coming from the conversation I had with Jonathan Nolan when Jim Conrad looked at me and said, you don't know who you are, and that my light blinds them. My light, that they won't come near me. They won't touch me. So let's just play this out.
And when I'm hearing it, I'm thinking, what if Jonathan Kleck is talking about us and he's just using another facade story when he is actually talking about us in some way?
That was the Lord's plan. That's what the Lord told me to do. Take her to the zoo. And I said, so that's the deal. You go on a shopping spree, go have fun. I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to the zoo. So we go to the zoo, and the zoo was awesome. We got to walk and talk, no pressure, not like you're sitting there like a little kid and someone's trying to ask you questions. Very chill. Just the Lord set the whole thing up. And I walked with her and I talked with her, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I got to go back. Let's go back to the day before. So We're at Sam's Burger Joint again. It's very obvious. Okay, ready? Golgotha. That's where they were crucified. Now let me show you something. Angels reflect light. Demons take the light. When you see someone that's born again, you can see it on their countenance. When they walk with the Lord for a while, they start getting this like, wow, they look kind of shiny. I've literally had people that saw me before and after, and they're like, whoa, you look really different. You look really like shiny. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, it's weird. I intervene and I walk directly to him. I don't allow his conversation to be part of the group. To him. I don't allow his conversation to be part of the group, which is what he is trying to accomplish. He's trying to attach himself to the group so he can sit there and turn his bar stool around and start yakking at our table, which I do not want him to do.
So he's talking about who is sitting at which table and whose group it is and which circle it is, and he doesn't want to have any wavering over it. What do you think is the real reason why he's talking about that story? Was there anybody awake when Jonathan Clegg threatened everybody over the house of Gene Revel? And what did he find there? Gene Revel was posting the videos that Kelly Barr was making and my videos that I was having on my YouTube channel, he posted on his YouTube channel. What do you think he saw? He saw us. And what do you think he's making this story for then?
I was like, no, I'm here to talk with this young lady and her mom, and now some guy in a bar is like, oh, you remember the Quaalude? I'm like, what the hell? And so what I do is like, since they're all sitting down, I intervene and I walk directly to him. I don't allow his conversation to be part of the group, which is what he is trying to accomplish. He's trying to attach himself to the group so he can sit there and turn his bar stool around and start yakking at our table, which I do not want him to do. And I'm thinking, well, he's overstepping. He's misreading the whole thing so badly it's a joke. And while he's overstepping, he's misreading the whole thing so badly it's a joke.
Misreading. You know, interpreting what's going on. Interpreting. He's misreading.
And start yakking at our table, which I do not care and trying to accomplish. He's trying to attach himself to the group so he can sit there and turn his bar stool around and start yakking at our table, which I do not want him to do. And I'm thinking, well, he's overstepping. He's misreading the whole thing so badly it's a joke. I'm thinking, well, he's overstepping. He's misreading the whole thing so badly it's a joke.
Jonathan Clegg saying that someone, random man, was overstepping and, you know, not respecting boundaries. But what about when he overstepped boundaries and he showed up at the house of Kelly Barr as using the astral travel? Kelly Barr reported seeing in astral projection, Jonathan Clegg was trying to get overstepping boundaries. And now Jonathan Clegg, after having his video with in yellow shirt, death row, was trying to get overstepping boundaries. And now Jonathan Clegg overstepping boundaries. Not allowing conversation, but listening to our every conversation.
He was at the Grand Junction get together, and Eaton's like, yes. And I said, yeah, Lexi was the little girl the Lord had me lay hands on. She was blind. And everyone kept telling me, you got to lay hands on Lexi. You got to lay hands on Lexi.
Now, the proof, total proof, that Jonathan Click is basing all his stories because of my conversation I had with Kelly Barr and what I'm presenting in my videos, YouTube, and what she is also.
Okay, so my part in this, the conversation that I had with Jonathan Nolan, was when my brother passed away, when he left on my daughter's birthday. And it was a couple of days later, she had gotten up one morning and told me and said, Uncle David came to me. Uncle David apologized to me for dying on his birthday. And she said that she saw my brother, and there was my niece, which is my brother's daughter, who was an infant at the time, was with him. And she went to touch him, and he said, you can't touch me, I'm still hurting. This is what he said to her, that he was still hurting, that she couldn't touch him. And this is what I said to Jonathan Nolan, and I hadn't said that to too many people, or I don't know if there's any testimony. There probably is, most likely, but this is what happened after my brother had passed. And this is what he had said to my daughter. And I made the comparisons with Mary Magdalene and Jesus when Jesus said, don't touch me, for I haven't ascended. This convinced me that the conversation was heard over the phone, coming from the phone, yes.
The thing about Jesus said to Mary Magdalene, touch me not. Guess what? I was talking about that. Jonathan Clegg is making a story about it. Listen. Touch me not.
And I was like, guys.
Laying hands on Lexi. He's speaking to Eden, little girl. And then, touch me not. Laying hands on her. The Lord telling me, I must not lay hands on you. Touch me not. Talking about the bride. He's given a bribe. What is he trying to restore? Elijah.
And I go, wow. And I started to stand up like I'm going to get up. And I go, wow, you know what? Eden, usually when I buzz this hard, I got to do something with it. I was like, it means I'm supposed to, do something. And I started to stand up, and I was going to lay hands on Eden inside of Sam's on our first encounter. And as I stood up to do it, I heard the Lord say, no, stop. Wait till the alley. And I went,
touch me not yet.
As I stood up to do it, I heard the Lord say, no, stop. Wait till the alley.
He's specifically talking about a story which involving laying of hands, but he could not do it. Not yet. For I am not yet. You see, he couldn't do it yet. Jesus said unto her, touch me not, for I am not yet. And what here he's talking about? Okay, I'm going to lay hands on you, but a little later, not yet.
So
when I was having this conversation on the phone with Kelly Barr, she started to explain to me about why.
Okay, now what the conversation was here was exactly what he says it was, but the thing that I'd like to add to this is that I don't know if anybody would remember the Homestead Children, and this was in 2014 when they were exposing the satanic cult in this area. Well, it was the young boy who was describing and drawing pictures, and it was actually videotaped, and he was drawing pictures, and these pictures were of bugs and beasts, and he would say, and these would be on the private parts. This is what he was seeing. So I was, when Jonathan Clegg was doing this, and he did it for a period of time, I couldn't stop but think if it would not trigger somebody here, in their adulthood or teenage, whatever the case, and be triggered by this, So it was very disturbing to be watching or, being, or even seeing these tattoos on body parts, right? So that's what I was talking about here when this young boy was drawing the pictures, and he was saying that these pictures that he drew were very similar to the same type of pictures that were, or tattoos that were being shown by Jonathan Clegg, is what I was saying here. So this is why I say this, this whole thing, I really truly am convinced that our conversation was overheard. Absolutely.
What Barack Obama said? Not after yes we can, but yes we did. Yes we did. Yes you did what? Yes, they did carry away a bunch of angels hostage, and they did convert them into locusts from the pit by stealing their angelic essence through the host body system. Now, let me show you Domino's Pizza. There is Domino's Pizza. You see the 2 in 1? See the 2 in 1?
Don't you think that it's kind of relate to the letter from Gene when he was saying, hoping that this year will be the beginning of the two souls become one? What he did since
Sorry.
then is doing an attempt to separate.
Just put a little red light in there to make it easier for you to see it. Look what it says. Oh, yes we did. Yes we did. Now look at the wheel cutter. That's an upside down 5-pointed star. That's a sigil of Baphomet. Recycle. Let me show you what's on the back. This pizza box dreams, arise, O sleeper, wake up from the dead.
Okay.
Host body, this pizza box dreams of becoming another box.
Lucid dreams. It was until 1913 that Frederick Van Eden coined the term lucid dream. Spelled with 2 E's. Coined the term lucid dream. Okay, I'm going to end it right now. So I just wanted to get this out and explain that, yes, I really believe this is coming from the private conversation Jonathan Nolan and I had. Okay. No fear, be love, give hope. Thank you, Jesus.